Hello, everybody, and welcome to Follow the Action. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, we thank you. Follow the Action, also syndicated nationally on radio. Also, our podcast named Follow the Action. We've been downloaded in over 60 countries, over 2,000 cities in all 50 United States because we don't have guys who play experts on television. We have the sharp guys, the experts themselves, the pillars and the foundations of the sports betting industry for the past several decades. Let's get right to March Madness because that's what everybody's talking about. Introduce the entire crew, starting with fighting out of the beautiful city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, the Philly Godfather, Mr. Steve Maltepes, been called the future of sports betting. Matt, representing the college kids, and as always, our special guest, the 8-Ball. We've got another special guest. We're not sure what's going to happen. He's Gotham City. He's Batman. He's Joker. We're not exactly sure, but he's with us right now.
John.
I love it. I always thought Jack Nicholson was the best Joker. I just changed my mind. And
that's right. I'm the best.
From Bet Online, Mr. Dave Mason, who as always is not here because he's so freaking good looking. We can't put him on camera. And a special guest, very excited, the Cap Man, Dave Kaplan from ESPN 1000 NBC Sports from the windy city of Chicago, Chi-Town, one of the best wrestling cities in the world, one of the best sports cities in the world. Thanks for joining us, Dave Kaplan.
Yes,
so let's get started right now with Mr. Dave Mason, who is in hiding somewhere underneath one of the Inca temples down in Mazatlan. Dave, March Madness. What do you got for futures? What do you got for bets? Where's money going? Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, money's going everywhere, man. You know, it's the futures, they've been up for months now, so all sorts of money's coming in. We're looking good there. Well, we're looking pretty good. I mean, we only have a couple teams where we really have a liability on anymore, and the Zags, who are the favorites at about plus 180 right now, and Michigan plus 750. There are only two liabilities right now. Everybody else, we're in the black, so that's a good thing. But no, action's coming in left and right, man. The action's really starting to pick up on all the game lines. We had some big decisions already. The top bets are going to be, well, as of now, I mean, tomorrow Michigan State's getting bet big. Who else? Ohio's a big play for the public. That's the biggest so far. Without a doubt, is Ohio. And what else? Ohio, Cal Santa Barbara plus 7.5, Winthrop plus 6.5 against Nova. Loyola, Chicago minus 3.5, Colgate plus 8.5. Got all sorts of sharp action. Drake -1 to +1. They're currently -1.5. Villanova -5.5, -6. Loyola, Chicago -2, -3. Liberty +9, +8.5. UNC under 138. Ohio State over 155.5, and Wisconsin +2.5 and +2. That's some of the sharp action. But yeah, also we have a $100,000 March Madness bracket. First place pays 15 grand. Top 300 get paid in cash, enter for just $15. So it's one of the best events of the year. So it's my favorite sporting event of the year. So I'm pretty pumped up. And I also want to hear what the guys have to say about the games. Can't wait.
Dave Mason from Bet Online. As always, thank you for the introduction for our show. And we got the guest. We got the man from Chicago who's got the best show in the world. That is Dave Kaplan. We mentioned a little Chicago basketball. Not that Chicago might be known for basketball or anything. What do you got for us in Chicago? Because you know that area better than anybody in the world.
Well, I had Loyola of Chicago 4 times this year. I do color for either ESPN or for NBC. And I'm telling you, it's an exceptionally well-coached team. They're outstanding defensively, and they're veteran. You got the big kid inside, Cameron Krutwig. He's not real athletic. He's strong. He's tough. He's got that great footwork. He's a kind of an old school player. They can make shots. They get the conference defensive player of the year, Lucas Williamson. They're a really, really good team. They got a tough draw, man. People here are not happy that they get Georgia Tech, who's a pretty good team, and then if you win, Illinois waiting around the corner. They wanted to see them meet down the road. But Loyola is a really, really good team.
They're a number 1 seed. You said you've got them. What have you got them? Have you got them picked to win it all, or how far do you think they're?
No, I have Illinois as the one. Illinois is the 1 seed, and I've got them picked to win the whole thing. I do. I think they're legit. Kofi Coburn, 7 feet. He's 275. He's a monster. He's raw. He just learned the game 4 or 5 years ago. Ayo Dosomu is their best player. He could have been Big Ten Player of the Year. He finished second to Luka Garza over at Iowa. But Illinois is intense. They are tough. They can score. They got a shooter named Adam Miller. They've got guys that can come off the bench. They're really good, and their coach is really intense. So he gets them going. I really like that team a lot.
Philly Godfather, do you like the Illinois team as well?
If you guys remember, I gave them out at the beginning of the year at 24-1 to win the whole thing. They ended up number 2 in my power rankings by the end of the year. I mean, this team is battle tested with an average opponent ranking of 52, which was the 10th toughest schedule in all of college basketball this year. I mean, they got quality wins over Wisconsin, Ohio State, and a sneaky but solid Rutgers team. They were also 3-1 against on a neutral court this year against teams that average in the top 10 in opponent strength. So they're battle tested. They're big. They got a guy at center who looks like Daryl Dawkins. I mean, the guy's a monster.
That's the kid.
He reminds me. Doesn't he remind you a lot of Daryl Dawkins?
Yeah, in fact, the other day they were playing in the Big Ten title game, and both Grant Hill and Clark Kellogg said he looks like Shaquille O'Neal. That's who they compared him to. Now, he's nowhere near as polished. He's raw, but he is a monster, man.
And they talk about his foul shooting, but every time I watch him down the stretch, when the foul shots count, he makes them. So he's got that clutch gene in him. I mean, this Illinois team has 9 wins over top 25 teams this year. I loved them at the beginning of the year at 24-1. I still think they got a great shot. Their bracket's a little tougher than Gonzaga's or Baylor's, but I mean, Oklahoma State's there. They're going to be a tough out. West Virginia, but other than that, I mean, I think they match up well against both those teams, to be honest. So I think Illinois, we're going to see them in the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm with Steve.
Cap, how do you think Illinois matches up against Gonzaga?
I think that their athleticism could provide some problems for Gonzaga. Look, Gonzaga is exceptionally well coached by Mark Few. They don't make mistakes. They make jump shots. And if you try and help inside, they're going to kill you from 3-point range. They're really, really good. If he doesn't win it this year, Mark Few may just go, it's never going to happen for me. He's got a great team. Those two in a final, that would be an absolute war, man. That would be awesome.
That would be a dream come true for me. I got them in all my brackets. I got Gonzaga and Illinois penciled in the finals. I mean, you got to remember, Gonzaga is so hard to beat, and they can beat you in so many different ways. If you look at their point distribution, they score over 90 points a game and only depend around 21 points of those points per game from the 3-point line. So they're not top heavy. So if they have a bad shooting night, they can still beat you. Gonzaga's really, really tough to beat this year.
Yeah, I was breaking down their game against BYU, and I thought, I don't know. They're 10 down, and next thing you know, they're boom. They just go right by you. That's how they score in bunches.
Yeah, and you got to remember, like on a day-to-day basis, if you were looking to bet Gonzaga, their numbers were overinflated. You were paying a premium because the odds makers knew how good that team was. And even in that BYU game, I think they were 17-point favorites. The sharp guys teamed BYU down to 14. And it was the right side, but you saw how Gonzaga can just turn it on when they want to. And, they didn't have much incentive in that game. And they still end up winning by 10 points. Here's a team where you saw point spreads of 20 points, 25 points, 30 points on the year. Some of the biggest point spreads we've seen in college basketball in the last 10 years were on this Gonzaga team. And you were definitely paying a premium to back them. And even though they were maybe, 500 against the spread this year, this team has 7 wins against top 25 teams this year. A bunch of them came on a neutral court early in the season, West Virginia, Kansas. I mean, this team is just so hard to beat.
He's exactly right. When in that BYU game, they were 10 down, and I logged on, and when I'm betting Gonzaga money line, thinking I'm going to get a decent – they were still minus 230, 10 points down in the second half, and then it was over.
Yeah, they're so hard to beat.
Cap, I'm from the state of Texas, and when Philly Rooster and Harry Mays are on here, I'm significantly outnumbered. So you can imagine when we discuss the NFC East, what they say about my Dallas Cowboys. It's not repeatable.
I bet it's not.
But you have a future on the Texas Longhorns, from what I understand. So talk to me a little bit about my basketball team from the state of Texas.
Yeah, I'm a huge Shaka Smart guy because I've been doing the games in the Atlantic 10 for a long time. And I just think he's a hell of a coach. He was at VCU. He did a great job there. I got to know him because he's a Chicago area guy. And then he goes down to Texas. And I think the heat was turned up on him. He had to win this year. But, man, they are really good in transition. He loves to press you up and down the court, and they can make jump shots. He lets his guys have freedom on the fast break. He doesn't care if they pull up from three with no one underneath the basket. Guys love playing in his system. And I really think they got a great draw. I think they have a chance to make a run here to the Final Four, and then you're holding a lottery ticket. We'll see what happens.
That's music to my ears. Thank you for that. After all this beating I'm taking from all these Philadelphia guys, I appreciate any good news about any Texas team because I claim all of them.
They got the Eagles, and they're horrible.
Wait, time out, Cap. You guys just picked up a quarterback, paid him all this money. You could have got him for like 10 times cheaper last year. What's going on in Chicago with the quarterback situation?
People are literally thinking of like January 6th at the Capitol. They want to go to Palace Hall. That's how mad they are about Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Last year, our offensive coordinator was here last year. His name's Bill Lazor. He was Andy Dalton's offensive coordinator. Now, you know, they got in the conference room last spring and went, should we sign your guy? No, he's no good. They let him leave. They go trade a 4th-round pick and guarantee $24 million to Nick Foles. He sucks. And now this year, $13 million with incentives to Andy Dalton. We got two of the same guys.
When you got the best edge pass rusher in the game, I thought you guys got it made. All you need now is a quarterback, and you guys are just not having any luck in getting quarterbacks. We are getting quarterbacks. You're just not getting top shelf quarterbacks.
We are not. It's unfortunate. Our Bears stink. They're bad.
I mean, you got to give them an A for effort. They did try and go after Russell Wilson. I saw what they were giving up the house for him, and Seattle just didn't want to trade him to Chicago for some reason, Cap.
3 number 1 picks, a 3rd-round pick, and 2 defensive starters. That's what they offered.
Wow.
That's what? We're talking 6 starting players for a 32-year-old quarterback? And they said no. God bless them.
God bless.
Well, Cap, I know
Mr.
you got to run.
Mayfield.
I want to thank you very much for joining us. ESPN 1000, NBC Sports. I know you're a very busy guy, but you came on Follow the Action. I know you're a friend with Philly Godfather. We all are for very good reasons. Cap, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Philly Godfather's my guy. He's the greatest. Love
Thanks,
that.
Cap.
All right. See you guys.
See you, Cap. Thank you. Dave Kaplan from ESPN 1000 and NBC Sports. So, Matt, from the college kids, what do you think about this Texas team that Cap seems to like? You like it as well, right?
I'm with Cap, man. Texas, I've been riding them all year. They're a great team, and they just coach so well. They love their coach, Shaka Smart. They play hard for him, and on top of that, if you look at their road, they have a pretty easy road, in my opinion. Toughest opponent with number 2 seed, Alabama. Doesn't really scare me out. I'm not big on Bama this year. They're going to have to go first game, probably Abilene Christian. They'll win that, I believe.
Oh, wait. What?
Sorry, John.
What do you mean like going against Abilene Christian is like taken for granted? What are you talking about, man? Have you not been to Moody Coliseum in Abilene, Texas? My picture hangs up there.
John, I have a question. Why do these guys always talk bad about Texas?
You know, I don't really know. Goff, that is a great question. I think it's some type of problem that they have with the great state of Texas. I'm not sure why. Even after the freeze, that froze most of our state, except for Padre.
Just so you know, I'm rooting for Abilene Christian now in the first round.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait. Time out, John. We got futures on Texas from the beginning of the year. We love this Texas Longhorns team. We just hate the Cowboys because they stink.
And you think us Texans feel any different about that? Actually, no. I love my Cowboys. They do stink. They're not good. My Abilene Christian Wildcats, though, I am thrilled. They won the Southland Conference by about 30 points. I mean,
they're a good team. They're a good team. They're just not nearly as good as Texas. Okay. Now, Texas, after they get by Abilene Christian, okay, They're going to be probably versus BYU or Michigan State. I think BYU, they play lesser competition. They haven't played the same competition Texas has. If they do versus them, they'll be able to beat them. After that, the way I'm looking at this bracket is they might be playing UConn, Alabama, and either matchup, I think they win that game and they end up advancing to the Elite Eight. And after that, it's going to be a tough game, maybe against, I don't know, Michigan, Florida State. And Michigan's missing their guard. He scores 14 points a game, huge for their team, one of their best players. So who knows if they even get there. If they verse Florida State, that's going to be a tough game. Florida State's a huge, big team, but Texas is pretty big themselves. I think they can win that. And then you have them in the Final Four. And it's hard to see anyone else coming out of there except for the Zags. I think Kansas undervalued coming in. I know April's big on Iowa, but I think Texas has a shot to beat those teams as well. So I'm riding Texas all the way.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody, if you're looking to bet a dog during March Madness, you got to remember 80% of the teams that win the game cover the spread. So you're not looking to bet these dogs just to cover the number. If you got to firmly believe these underdogs can actually win the game outright, or else 8 out of 10 times they're not going to cover the spread. So it's nice to look at taking +9 or +10. But when they're going up against some of these powerhouses, over history over the last 25 years, 80% of the time, the team that wins the game covers the spread. So if these dogs don't have a shot of beating Texas, like Abilene Christian, I don't think they have a shot of beating Texas. I won't even touch that dog.
So, for the Godfather, when you're talking about putting a little bit on the dog as far as the money line, how much do you normally split up? Say if it's 100% of your bet, how much would you normally split up? Just for those out there watching who are going to take that advice, because it is good for 80% end up covering that, end up winning. How much do you split up out of that?
During March Madness, I don't want to paint it with a broad brush because sometimes the edge is a little bigger than other times. But if you want to play conservative, right around 20%. If you bet 100 plus the points, put about $20 on the money line or vice versa. But sometimes our edge is even bigger than that, and we'll put more. But to play it conservative, about 20-25% tops.
8-Ball, your name was mentioned as far as liking Iowa, and I know you also like West Virginia. What do you think about your guys' chances? When they brought up Iowa, what do you think about them?
Well, I love Iowa because of their ball movement. I think they have a great ball movement. And I love their shooting. I think on any given night, if they're playing their best basketball, they can beat anybody. Just to get to the bracket here, they have to play – let's see where they're at.
They're in the West.
Grand Canyon right now. They should get by them, and then they have to play Oregon. I think they're a better team. So let's say they get by Oregon. To me, the best, toughest competition is going to be against Kansas. And I think they're a better team than Kansas. I don't think Kansas is going to be able to shoot as well as them. So then they get to Gonzaga, and if they get to that point, we can hedge our ticket at plus 2,000. I think it's a great bet for Iowa.
I don't know that West Conference. Obviously, Gonzaga's probably the best team in college hoops this year. Now they definitely got to prove it during March Madness. Like I said before, 7-0 on a neutral court versus teams with an average opponent ranking of 35, and that's no joke. Like people don't realize how impressive that stat is. Now, do you pencil Gonzaga into the Final Four? You probably have to, since they do have double-digit wins over Iowa, Virginia, Kansas, and they beat West Virginia on a neutral court. But if the Zags play a crappy game against a Missouri team in the round of 32, a Tigers team that has 9 losses on the year, and we actually nibbled on Missouri at 500-1 to win the whole thing at the Circa Sportsbook the other day. I threw some baby money on it. I threw $100 on it as a lottery ticket. If that happens, everyone's bracket is busted. And to be honest, I probably have a better shot of winning the lottery than winning this bet. But you got to remember, this Tigers team is 4-4 versus top 25 teams this year. They have wins over Illinois, Oregon, Arkansas in Arkansas, and they beat Tennessee in Tennessee, and they also beat Alabama. If somehow Gonzaga comes out flat against Missouri in the next game, in the second game, which they probably won't, but with 500-1 odds on a team like Missouri, who has played great at times this year, it's definitely worth a lottery ticket. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen, over the years in the big dance during March Madness. And I'm being honest, Virginia doesn't impress me with 6 losses on the year. Iowa's solid, but they don't scare me either. They got 8 losses on the year, and the Jayhawks lost 8 games as well. I mean, it's going to be a miracle. If Missouri could pull off a miracle win against the Zags in the West, I think they become the Godzilla of that bracket. And at 500-1 odds, it's worth taking a little nibble on this Missouri team because, like I said, after Gonzaga, they might be the second best team in that bracket, John.
Dave Mason from Bet Online. You please plug your bracket again that you can win a bunch of money, putting down $15. But also, where do you have the money going? Where do you have any liability for March Madness? What keeps you up at night going into this tournament?
Nothing keeps us up at night, man.
The biggest, come on, you're not
come on.
Yet.
Nah, man. I mean, the action's great. You know, there's so many. It's not like the Super Bowl where, you know, one game is going to make or break it, man. There's just so many games that, you know, it's
what kind of handle, Dave? Not to interrupt you, but what kind of handle do you have during March Madness compared to the Super Bowl? It's got to be a lot bigger, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many games. You know, that's always a popular question. What's the biggest event? You know, a betting event of the year. I mean, if you're looking at one game, nothing comes close to the Super Bowl, right? But an quote unquote event. I mean, March Madness, I guess, you know, it's what, 64 games over 3 weeks. So it's hard to compare, you know? So overall, you know, it's March Madness, but one game, one day, one sweat, without a doubt, it's the Super Bowl, no doubt about it. And, you know, there's just 16 games Friday, 16 games Saturday. It's just, you know, when you have that many games, it's, you know, sure we can lose, but we're not going to get murdered like you can on a Super Bowl, for God's sakes. You know, the biggest liabilities right now, Ohio. Ohio getting 7 against Virginia. I mean, that opened a double-digit spread. That's Ohio, Cal Santa Barbara. That's a big liability right now. They're getting +7, and they're getting 7.5 against Creighton. Missouri getting a point against Oklahoma. But, you know, it's there's so much action yet to come in. I mean, 80% of the action's going to come in tomorrow. It's again one of those kind of public events too, where just so many people kind of sign up that last day and a half that you know, that Ohio game, I doubt that by the time it tips off, I doubt that will be the biggest liability. I mean, that's such a big liability because it's open double digits, and there are guys out there that recognize that those odds are way off, and they bet the max on it, and there you go. So as of now, those are our biggest needs. At Michigan State tomorrow, that's going to be. That'll be a huge decision as well. I think there's like 73% of cash is on Michigan State right now.
I got a question for you too. Now, over the years, I mean, with the popularity of KenPom and all these power ranking websites that you see out there, have you seen a transition from the betting public where they used to always bet favorites? Now they're starting to bet some dogs out there. Are you seeing that move?
March Madness, yeah, March Madness, definitely, man, absolutely. I remember talking about this time not last year, obviously 2 years ago, I guess it was, that we just kind of saw that too. But again, we're talking about early numbers right now. We're talking about early decisions, and the earlier guys are the sharper guys. The sharper guys are going to be taking the points, right? And we have this conversation on Friday morning, and all of a sudden we're Ohio fans. You know, it could turn out that way as the pub just comes in and takes the chalk. So overall, yeah, but it's not like overwhelming. I think, you know, we're still going to need the dog in most games without a doubt. It's just probably not as lopsided as it would be in football or NBA or even college basketball regular season.
Dave, do you have much sharp money on Abilene Christian?
Don't
even answer that. I don't want to hear it.
I think he's got one bet, and the IP address was from like Washington somewhere. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
I know where that bet
I
came
think it
from.
was Gonzaga, Maryland.
That's right. I can bet on my hometown team of Gonzaga, or I can bet on my alma mater of Abilene Christian.
Aren't you happy I captured the Batman and brought the Capman?
I have no idea what's happening, to tell you the truth, Billy guys. We've reached portals unknown. Well, let's go to a little bit of UFC then. Since we got Mr. Dave Mason and we've got Gotham City, who may be the Joker now. We're not exactly 100% sure. Dave Mason from Bet Online. You got Brunson versus Kevin Holland. A pretty good looking main event. Where do you have the action and the money and the odds on this one, please?
Yeah, decent main event, right? The odds are currently Holland minus 175, and he was the fighter of the year for the year 2020, and Brunson is now plus 150. We're going to need Brunson as of now. About 68% of the cash is on Holland right now. The over under is not a ton of action on the over under right now. It's pretty 50-50, so no big need right now.
Cesar Romero. I just don't think he's in the top 2 of Jokers of all time. I just
Oh my God, one of my favorite.
Did you like Caesar better than Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson?
I mean, Heath Ledger was unreal. Jack Nicholson, he was pretty good, but as a kid, you can't let that go. You know?
I'll give you that. I'll give you that because I grew up watching that as well. Now Heath Ledger, of course, took it to a complete different level.
I think my hair's a little better than them, just so you know.
Nicholson was.
Well, that whole Batman show was the inspiration for all the kaboom, the bang that I do on Twitter all the time, John.
Right.
It was the best. It's the first time they actually did it. Stop the whole thing and put kaboom up. It was just, and it worked.
You remember when Bruce Lee was on there?
No.
Oh, he played Kato.
Oh,
was Kato.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
One of my favorite episodes of all time.
Yeah. He drove. That's right.
So, Joker, tell us about Brunson versus Kevin Holland.
Yeah, this is a really interesting fight because Kevin Holland's 28 years old. He's a younger guy coming up here. He's had some real flashy wins. He had a great kind of knockout of Ronaldo Jacare Souza, kind of from the bottom, which is kind of unique. And he's gotten a lot of hype. He's had several wins in a row. And, the interesting thing is they put him against Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson is 37 years old, so he's a little bit older. But what he's done a couple of years ago is he's went down to Sanford MMA, where all these guys are training. He is hooked up with their main head coach. Henry Hooft is a real good striking coach. And Derek Brunson used to kind of not have a real high fight IQ. He used to fight real wild, real aggressive. And in his last couple fights, you're seeing him really have a fight IQ, have a game plan instilled. You're seeing Henry Hooft have all of his kind of teachings brought into him of how to manage a fight, how to win a fight, and how to fight Derek Brunson style of fight. The last 3 fights, he's fought Edmund Shabazian, Ian Heinisch, and Elias Theodoro, and he's won all 3 fights. He's been a dog all these last 3 fights. And I got to tell you, I think all the betting public is going to come in on Kevin Holland. They think he's going to be too rangy, too tall, too fast. I think Derek Brunson is going to withstand that, get inside. He's a D2 wrestler. I think he's going to use those wrestling credentials. I think he's going to get this fight up against the cage. He's going to press him. I think he's going to be the stronger fighter here. And I think at plus price at about $1.50, Derek Brunson's the right side in this fight.
A nice dog in the main event. I love it. Do we have also an underfight card that you want to also comment on? That it's Griffin versus Kenan Song. Dave Mason from Bet Online. Where do you have the odds, the sharp action, and the money, please?
Yes, sir. Max Griffin's currently minus 195. Song pays plus 170. Over under 2.5 rounds with the over at minus 210. Griffin, we took some sharp action on Griffin at minus 160. So like I say, he's up to minus 195 right now. Public cash is also on Griffin. About 71% of the overall money is on Griffin. Total, again, it's choppy, about 50-50. No big decision as of yet.
Gotham City?
Yeah, Max Payne Griffin is fighting here, and he's getting some real sharp attention for one reason. He's got a 5.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. And when you're talking about these guys at, 5'11", 6 feet tall, you have a really great boxer with credentials, power, great movement, and you have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to be the sharp side in this fight. And, I think that he is going to be the better technical striker in this fight. And I think that that's why he's really, the sharp side here. I like Max Payne Griffin here in this fight. I think it's still cheap at $1.95. I've got him rated about 265, 270 in this fight. So I think you're going to see sharp action bet him all the way up into the mid 200s.
Adesanya still believes he has super fight ability in his persona.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
You know, we had an amazing card, and that was one of the only fights that we were on the wrong side of. And that was probably one of the best UFC cards, for sharp money and, professional betting. But I'll tell you what, he did move up in weight. But I think the thing that was super surprising was that he didn't use his range and move as well. He weighed in at 205 or 201 and a half for the fight, but he normally weighs in at 185. So he's already 16 pounds heavier. And then I think he gained a little bit of weight is what some of the public has been talking a little bit about, and some of the guys that have some inside knowledge. So he was significantly heavier for this fight. And you could see it in his movement. His movement was slower. His punches were slower. And, as the fight wore on and he got a little tired, Jan Blachowicz had a great game plan. He clinched him. He took him down. He didn't do a whole lot. He didn't really create any damage, but he absolutely won the fight. And he had a great game plan, and he did exactly what he should have done and needed to do in that fight. And Israel didn't stay long. He didn't stay in that range that he fights. And when he didn't have that speed, you could see that Jan was going to win that fight. And kudos to him, because he did win that fight for sure.
This isn't as big a battle as Cesar Romero and Heath Ledger, but it is pretty big. Ben Askren and Jake Paul. You got Snoop Dogg on one side wanting to bet $2 million. Dana White on the other side wanting to bet $1 million. This is insane. It's nuts to me. Askren can't strike, from what I've seen. Great wrestler, world champion. What do you think about all this? And does the bet get made? Which I know is pure conjecture, but let's have some fun.
We'll have some fun. Obviously, I think that the last time I saw Dave, do you have odds in this fight?
Yeah, Paul's minus 215 and Askren's plus 175.
Yeah, I mean, that says it all. I mean, you have a guy who is not a professional fighter, who hasn't fought, who's a 2-1 favorite over a professional guy who's, had high level wrestling, high level UFC, high level Bellator matches, I believe. And, he's a 2-1 favorite. I mean, I think the issue is that you're going to see, Jake Paul's going to be the younger guy. I think he's going to dominate the first 2 rounds. But I'll tell you what, Ben Askren is really tough. And I know he did take that knee. He did get knocked out with that flying knee by Jorge Masvidal. But I'll tell you, I think you're going to see as the fight wears on, he's going to kind of wear. Paul's going to slow down a little bit. He's going to use his pressure. And I think you're going to see him get him in the later rounds. I still think that Ben Askren's the right side. He's instilled Manny Pacquiao's trainer for the fight here. So he's been to his gym, Freddie Roach. He's been training with him. And, I know you can't teach a dog new tricks in just a couple weeks, but I think Freddie Roach will have him ready enough to show him how to kind of weather the storm early and then be able to get to him a little bit later on in the fight.
Philly Godfather, I know it's coming up in a little while. It's not imminent like March Madness is, but you're the boxing expert. What do you think about this with Askren and Paul? Have you had a chance to look at it, handicap, and are you going to?
I haven't looked at it, but just if you read between the lines, I mean, the YouTube sensation is a favorite. It's just, is the other guy taking the fight that seriously? Does he know? Is he going in there with different expectations? There's so many things you got to factor in. Now, if the UFC fighter was in tip-top shape and he was, at his peak, obviously, the YouTube kid couldn't beat him. But this fight just sounds funny to me. The line sounds funny to me. I don't want no parts of it, John. I really don't want no parts of it.
Dave, before we go back to March Madness and the game we have going to be predicted by the Joker, do you have much on this fight yet between Askren and Paul?
Not a ton yet. I mean, it'll be a big bet fight. I mean, right now, what is it, about the 62% of actions on Paul? It'll be one of those events, though. It'll be big. It'll be a good betting event. So we're looking forward to it. They're the undercard. There's some big names on the undercard too. So it'll be a circus, but I like circuses, man, because some of those circuses bring out some of the best action. So we can't wait.
Circus, elephants and peanuts. How can you
That's
get
right,
wrong?
man. Absolutely. We love those, circus events, Mayweather, McGregor, and there's never any bigger event than that one. So it was kind of a joke, but to anybody that knew anything, but it was an event. So people like betting on these big events, and we'll be here to supply the odds.
Well,
Dave, do you have a price for the draw on that fight?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
There will be. I mean, it'll be probably 20-1, I guess.
Perfect.
Well, Dave, a game that is coming up and a bet that's going to have a little action pretty quick and probably is already having some. That's North Carolina and Wisconsin in March Madness. Dave, do you have you got that game up and have you got any money in action on this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some good action on it. Wisconsin's currently +1.5. I mentioned earlier, I believe that we did take some sharp action on the Badgers at +2.5 and +2. The overall cash is on Wisconsin, but again, that has a lot to do with some of that sharp action too, because they're betting bigger amounts than the public. But about what is that? About 61. No, about 60% of the cash is on Wisconsin overall. So no, it'll be a big bet game without a doubt on Friday.
Gotham City, I know you got a leaning on this game. What is it?
Yeah, early in the week, we had given out Wisconsin. At the time, it was 2.5. We had +3 -120. And I think there's several factors that play into this here. And I think you're going to see the betting public is going to see the recency bias of North Carolina, the switching of their lineup. They're playing better. But I think you need to pause here for a minute and look at, number one, the strength of schedule and the competition. And, a lot of people are going to think that Wisconsin has come in and they're limping and they're not playing well. In their last 5 games, they've played, or in their last 7 games, they've played Iowa 3 times, Illinois twice, Michigan, and Purdue. Now, I don't know of any team that's played any better schedule in the last 5 weeks than something like that. And all of these games have been extremely close games. They held Illinois' points down. They held Iowa's points down. So these have been really, really good games. And I think the advantage they have here, if you look at some of the metrics here, here's some of the metrics. Wisconsin's adjusted efficiency in offense is 32 in the country. Carolina, 53. The defense here, Wisconsin's 13th in the country in the adjusted efficiency in defense, and North Carolina's 35. The turnover percentage, I know a lot of people don't like this, and I know they're hard to predict, but if you see something over a grand scale, it becomes a little bit better. Wisconsin is 2nd in the country in creating turnovers. North Carolina, 257th. Okay. So Wisconsin's playing some defense. They're playing some pressure defense. They're manning up, and they're going to see some defenses, North Carolina, that they may not have seen this year. The offensive rebound is where this game is going to be contested here. North Carolina is number 1 in the entire country, and Wisconsin's mid 200s. So that's going to be a big advantage for North Carolina is on the offensive glass. If we go to defensive rebounding, this gets interesting. The defensive rebounding, Wisconsin 69th, North Carolina 115th. So they're better on the defensive boards than the offensive boards. And I think that's because North Carolina's athleticism and then crashing the boards is why they have that higher metric ranking. Let's look at 3 points, 3-point percentage. Wisconsin, 69th in the country, North Carolina, 270th. There's a huge advantage in shooting. There's a couple games this year where Wisconsin has shot the lights out from 3-point land. So if North Carolina doesn't come out and guard them on the 3-point land, they're going to be in trouble in this game. Free throw percentage. All right, let's look at the country ranks. Wisconsin's 28th ranked in the country in free throw percentage. North Carolina, 295th. 295th. At the end of this game, we will always take the team with the better free throw percentage. And this is a huge discrepancy in this game. Back to defense, steals. Wisconsin is 6th in the country. North Carolina, dead last in D1, 341 in the country. They create no defensive pressure, no defensive turnovers, no steals. Now, the other factor that people are going to talk about is they're going to talk about North Carolina's height, right? So I went and made sure and looked to make sure that we have enough height on Wisconsin's team. The average height on Wisconsin's team is 78.2 inches. The average height on North Carolina's team, 78.8. So they are metrically close. North Carolina is 7th in the country in height. Wisconsin's 40th. So they're close. Here's the other factor that I think is a big play in this. So when you analyze this, you got to look at some of this stuff, experience. North Carolina's average experience is 1 year playing college basketball on that team. Wisconsin is almost 3. So they've had double the experience. And with all these factors and all this stuff here, you have a team that has played a better strength of schedule, getting 2.5 or 3 points. I think it's the right side.
Matt, before we wrap up, go around and talk about the game that you're looking most forward to this weekend overall. Matt, from the college kids, what are you looking forward to most this weekend?
We have a future on Michigan. I want to see how they play without their one of their best players are the guards. I want to see how they play, if they can still, produce enough. And I want to see how they play so that going forward, I know how to, rank them and measure them against these other teams.
8-ball.
Just the whole tournament, to be honest. I'm just going to be watching every game, tuning in, seeing how these teams play.
And Joker, terrific breakdown there of North Carolina and Wisconsin. You got a game that you're looking forward to, or that is the game that you're looking forward to the most this weekend?
I like that, but I also like San Diego State. I think this team is really underrated. I think they opened at 2. It's been bet all the way up to 3.5 now in most spots. I really like San Diego State this weekend in this tournament. I think you're going to see how well they match up and play, and I'm looking forward to watching them play too as well.
Dave Mason, what is the most bet game so far that you have on the board?
The Winthrop Nova game.
Winthrop.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of that was some of the early action. So, by Friday, that's going to be a different answer without a doubt.
And Philly Godfather, we always save the best for last. That'd be you. What are you looking forward to most this weekend? Games as far as March Madness.
I agree with Gotham City about this Wisconsin side, but someone's steaming the under, and I'm hoping that total gets down to 136. It opened 39, it's down to 37, and I'm actually looking to go over 136 because North Carolina doesn't defend a three-point shot very well. I think they're like 220th in the nation. And Wisconsin can shoot to 3. I remember against Loyola Chicago, they shot like 56% from the three-point line. So this is a team, if you don't defend the 3, they can put a lot of points up on you real quickly. So I'm looking to go over 136. I took some Colgate against Arkansas. I took the early number. I took the +10. I was betting against Colgate all year. I just couldn't believe how well they shot the basketball from the three-point line, and they just kept beating me. And there were some games they were shooting 60, 62% from the three-point line. So here's a team that can really shoot, a team that nobody knows about. Everyone just watched Arkansas play real tough, in their conference tournament. And this is a Colgate team that can score at will. I mean, shoot lights out. So I thought +10 was too much. That's pretty much the 2 big games on the board. I'm looking now, see if I forgot anything, but yeah, they're the 2 teams I like. I like Colgate. I like the over in Wisconsin. And I took some Winthrop early +7.5. That line already moved. NIT money, I went over in Boise State SMU. I went over 145. And I took some Drake +2. Now they're actually favored by 2. I think that's pretty much everything early. And good luck, as always. I mean, it's the greatest time of year. Like Dave Mason said, is the biggest handle. I love the Super Bowl, but this is the best time of the year, John.
I completely agree with you. Nothing like March Madness. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Good luck in the tournament. For Dave Kaplan from ESPN 1000 NBC Sports, thank you for being a part. For the Joker, for Gotham City, for the Philly Godfather, Matt Maltepes of the College Kids, and the 8-Ball, I'm John Lakefield. This is Follow the Action. Good luck in March Madness. Thanks for joining us.